Hi, welcome to week 4 of Reconciliation in Romans. I want to talk this week about culture and what it means to be an agent of change. So culture is social norms, customary beliefs, and shared attitudes, values, and goals. We function in many different cultures at once. I live in the Pacific Northwest, which is different than the Southeast, which is different than the Southwest. In Salem, Oregon, there are different cultures geographically also. For example, West Salem is known for being primarily affluent and wealthy. The Northeast is the opposite of that. And even among Foursquare churches, we see different cultures. The Hispanic Foursquare Church in Salem is different than the West Salem Foursquare Church, which is different than the East Salem Foursquare Church. We have different cultures among our families, too. Mark's family is dysfunctional enough that their holidays are spent bickering and fighting and gossiping, and he flat out refuses to go to holiday events with his side of the family. My family, on the other hand, works really hard to reconcile differences and act out of love and respect, so we usually go to my side of the family for holidays. Cultures are vast. We run in different cultures at work, in family, geographically, etc. So the point of this is to bring up the phrase agent of change. We can be agents of change within our various cultures. An example of this was when my dad, who in high school was a drug dealer, saw his friend nearly get killed by a moving bus. His response was to find out more about what happened after death, so he ran to the only church he knew of and found the first person he met and told them he wanted to know more about the afterlife. This person happened to be the youth pastor who laid out the gospel for my dad. My dad accepted Jesus as his Lord and Savior that day. By the next week, the youth group size had doubled because people saw the radical transformation in my father's life. They wanted also to know about the one who could forgive a drug dealer and all-around bad guy and cause such love and joy and peace. My dad was the first Christian in his family, and others have come to know Jesus because of his influence. He married my mom, who was a lifelong Christian, and they had 5 kids who now have all made Jesus their Lord. My dad changed the culture at his school, at his new church, in his family, and he and my mom created a subculture in which to raise us. So let's focus back on reconciliation. Reconciliation essentially means to resolve or restore. We have been focusing on reconciliation in the book of Romans and how one of the themes over and over is being reconciled to Christ. I want to continue the dialogue we've been having in these lectures and in our forum discussions to look at how we can be part of resolving or restoring, reconciling things in our culture. I'm wondering what you would want to have reconciled in one or many of the cultures you belong to, whether it's in your church, your family, your school, your country, etc. What would you like to see changed or reconciled? For me, one of the main things has been mental illness. I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder when I was 20. I started experiencing the symptoms, though, when I was 13. Bipolar disorder means I have a difficult time regulating my mood, and without therapies, including medication, counseling, accountability, prayer, etc., I have a really hard time balancing between too happy and too sad. What most people don't realize is that a person with bipolar disorder often struggles with suicidal thoughts, fantasies, and desires at both ends of the spectrum. Both ends are extremely painful in all facets, and we want a way out. It took me many years to find a medication regimen that gave me some sense of normal. At first, the meds just wiped away my ability to emote at all. I couldn't feel appropriately happy or sad. An example of this is that a friend of mine miscarried and I couldn't care. It was torturous to live like that. But I stuck with it and eventually found a rhythm of therapies that could allow me to live a healthy, productive life. But 5 years ago, starting with the last day of my honeymoon, which is a terrible time for this to happen, thankfully Mark knew it did not reflect on him at all, but I entered a major depressive episode. The episode lasted for 5 months and was characterized by the desire to kill and harm myself. I fought with every ounce of strength I had not to market my body or just end it. Mark was able to take time off of work to sit with me those 5 months and make sure I was eating, showering, exercising, taking my medication, etc. We had to work with a new psychiatrist to readjust my medication regimen. He took me to all of my appointments. He helped save my life. I got out of that episode without a mark on my body or an attempt on my life. But it is not an understatement to say that I almost didn't make it. In 2016, Mark fell into his own major depressive episode, and until the beginning of 2019, he was still in it. He was suicidal on and off, and he had to spend some time in the psych ward in 2017 because he was too close to committing suicide. It's been exhausting. Mental illness has taken so much from us. Thankfully, we are surrounded by such good friends and family who love and support us. I now speak at churches regarding mental health because I know that the church has not always and is not always the supportive organism we need it to be. Some have used a skewed theology to say that if you're a Christian, you shouldn't feel depression. I believe this is a lie from the enemy, and am working to correct it and provide a healthy theology for the church to minister to those with mental health issues. So, as we engage one another in our forum this week, I'd love to see how you are or want to be an agent of change in your culture. So I'm praying for you, and I can't wait to see you in the forums this week.